welcome back to another video. This is Bruna and today I'm going to be showing you how to crochet these two granny squares that you can see right here. One that it's colorful, so I'm going to show you how to change the colors. We are going to be doing 5 rows, and also how to do a granny square using one color throughout the entire square. So these are the 2 squares we are going to be learning in today's video. Also, if you don't know how to crochet and you want to learn, I have a 101 how to crochet video already here on YouTube, so I would suggest you checking that video out before moving on into this video, because that video I explained to you how to do a slip knot, in which I'm going to be doing in today's video, a chain, a double crochet, and certain things that you need to learn before you move on into a granny square. Also, a granny square is the very first thing that you crochet when you are learning how to crochet. That was the very first thing that I did when I was learning how to crochet, and it's super useful because you can make a lot of things using granny squares. You can make cardigans, you can make jumpers, you can make skirts, tops, bottoms, you can make cushion covers, you can make blankets. Everything that you can think of, you can make using a granny square. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to show you how to crochet a granny square. I know that there are a lot of videos already on YouTube on how to crochet a granny square, but a lot of you guys like the way I explain and the way I do my tutorials, so that's why I decided to do this one for you. And also next week I am going to be crocheting something using these granny squares. As you can see, I have quite a lot here around me. I have a lot here. I have, I think, around 24 granny squares here around me right now, and that's why I wanted to do this video, because then you can get used to doing the granny squares, and then next week you can crochet something with me. So this is just a heads up basically on how to crochet the granny squares, and then next week I'm going to be crocheting and we can crochet something together using these granny squares. So super excited about today's video. So I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you do, make sure you give your massive thumbs up as you always do. Also, don't forget to subscribe and to turn on the notification bell to receive a notification every time I post a new video. So first, starting here with my colorful square, I'm going to be using scrap yarn because that's what I usually do when I do colorful squares like this. I just use my scrap yarns. I usually have a lot, because if you crochet like I do, you probably have a lot of scrap yarns in a little box, in a little drawer. So that's what I'm going to be using. These ones here, they are all DK yarns. And then here on this side we have a cotton square using one color only throughout the entire square. You can see here that this one is a little bit bigger, so this one is using DK yarns, and this one here is using Aran, okay? Aran yarn weight. So it's a little bit bigger, and also it's cotton, so it will be just a tiny little bit bigger. This square here, it's 12 centimeters. This one here, it's 12 and a half. I usually have my measuring tape with me so I can measure everything for you. So you can see here that it's 12 and a half by 12 and a half centimeters. I think that's 5 inches. Yeah, 5 inches by 5 inches. This one is just a tad little smaller. So this one is 12 centimeters. Just if you are wondering the sizing of this square. If you are a beginner, I would suggest you starting with these kind of yarn weights because they are super easy to crochet. Also try to crochet with an acrylic yarn. I've started with an acrylic yarn because that's softer and that's easier to crochet in my opinion. But then you can actually crochet with anything that you have at home, that your mom supplied to you to start crocheting. So just try to use bigger yarns rather than super thin, because then that's going to frustrate you and you're probably gonna quit crocheting. So just try using DK, Aran, chunky yarns, because that's a little bit easier. And then here for my tools, I have a 4mm hook, which is equivalent to the yarn that I'm using, a small pair of scissors, a tapestry needle so we can weave in our ends, and then last but not least we have a measuring tape. I always have one with me because that helps a lot when creating squares and when you're following a tutorial. I usually measure everything for you if you are following my tutorial so that you know exactly what you're doing, and also if you are using a different yarn weight, you can actually measure to see if you're gonna reach the sizing that I'm doing, okay? I've already measured my squares for you. You already know, so I'm not gonna be using any more my measuring tape. So first I'm going to be showing you how to crochet the colorful square. So first you have to plan the colors that you wanna use. For these squares here, as you can see, I did the yellow on the outside of my square because that's easier when we are sewing the squares together. That's how I usually do. I don't attach my squares together. I like sewing them together. So I would say choose a color that will go on the outside of the square. So I have the yellow one, so I know that this one is going to go right at the end, so I'm not going to be using these now. So first I'm going to be using this orange yarn here, and then later I can choose the other shades. So we are going to be doing this very first row here, and I'm going to be showing you exactly how to do it in a very easy way that I wish I would have learned when I was starting to crochet, because it's super easy this way here. So first we have to create a slip knot. You want to leave here at the end just a little bit of yarn so it's easier for you to weave in at the end. I usually leave about this much, the sizing of my 4 fingers, just like that. And then I create my slip knot right here. Once you have your slip knot ready, we can now chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is going to be our base for our granny square. So now you're going to be creating 2 double crochets into that very first chain here. So you're going to be skipping the 3 that we have at the beginning, and then you're going to go right into the very first one. Just like this. Make sure that you get 2 little loops from the last chain. And then here we are going to be creating the first double crochet and then another one. So we have the very first shell completed. So you should have something like this. So now we are going to be chaining 2, and then into that same stitch, the same little chain, we are going to be creating 3 double crochets. So we are going to be creating this very first row here, all inside of this little chain here at the beginning. Three, and then we are going to be chaining 2, and then go back into the middle again, and then 3 double crochets, chain 2, go back into the middle again, and then the last 3 double crochets. So now to finish it off, we are going to be chaining 2, and then we are going to be finding the very first chain right here, and then you can just go right into the very top of that chain. So you can count, here's chain 1, 2, and 3. Right on top of the chain here, we are going to be creating a slip stitch. So you're basically going to be inserting the hook right here into that stitch, and then you're going to pull up a loop, and then with this loop right here, the very first loop, you're going to be inserting it and going through the second one. So that's a slip stitch. Here we have created the very first row of our granny square. So now you can chain 1, make it nice and tight. All we have to do now is to cut the yarn, and then we are going to be pulling this yarn just like this. Give it a little tug to fasten off. So here we have the very first row completed. So now we are going to be bringing the next color. So I'm going to do this one. With the new shade, we are going to be creating again a slip knot. So this is what we are going to be repeating into every color we change. And then we are going to be choosing any of the little corners that we have here. So we have 4 corners, so you can choose any of them. I'm going to be choosing this one here. So basically right on top of the chain 2. And all we have to do now is to insert the hook through the chain 2, and then you're going to pull up a loop, and then you're going to be creating a single crochet right here, right on top of that chain 2 space here, so that we can attach the yarn and then start the new row. So to start the new row, which is row number 2, we are going to first chain 2, because we already have a single crochet here, so we don't need to do a chain 3. And then we are going to be creating in the corners. We are always going to be creating corners. So into this corner here, we are going to be creating the very first corner. So it's going to be 2 double crochets, and then a chain of 2, and then 3 more double crochets into the same chain 2 space, into the same corner. So this is the very first corner completed. We are going to be repeating this shell, this corner, into every corner we find when we go around the square. I'm gonna show you this one again a little bit slower. So once you have the first corner completed, every time you finish a corner, we are going to chain 1. And then we are gonna move on into the next corner. So right here, we are going to be creating 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. And then we are going to be chaining 2, and then we are going to be creating 3 more double crochets all into that same chain 2 space, into that same corner. Okay, that's all you have to do. So now we are going to chain 1, and then we are going to move on into the next corner, and we are going to be repeating the same into the next 2 right here. Once you have finished this corner here, the last one, you want to make sure that you chain 1, and then we have to go right on top of the chain 2. So we have single crochet, 1 chain, second chain, right on top of the second chain. And then here we are going to be slip stitching the 2 sides together. And here we can chain 1 and fasten off. So you're going to be cutting the yarn, and then you can fasten off. So now we have row number 2 completed. So now let's move on into row number 3. So now we can get the third color, and then we are going to be creating a slip knot and attach into any corner around our square. So we have again the 4 corners, and now we have the spaces in between the corners. So now we are going to be using these spaces here to create and to increase the sizing of our square. You can see that here we have the little spaces in between the corners, and then we are going to be adding the 3 double crochets right on top. This is going to be increasing the sizing of the square. And then when you move on into row number 4, you will see that we have 2 more spaces in between the corners, and that we are going to be also adding again the 3 double crochets right on top of the spaces. And when you move on into the next row, you will have 3. So basically every time you go up a row, the numbers of these shells here, they will increase. So it starts with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on. So now for row number 3, you can choose any of the corners to start. So I'm going to be doing this one here. You go through the corner and you attach the yarn with a single crochet. So we are following exactly the same as we did for row number 2. And then we are going to go up here with a chain of 2. And into this chain 2, we are going to be creating another corner. So corner on top of corner. So now we are going to chain 1. Always remember to chain 1 every time you finish the corner or the shells in between here, the corners. So when you get into the chain 1 space, right on top of the chain 1 space here, we are going to be creating 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, and the last one, number 3. So now you're going to chain 1, and then you're going to get into the next corner. So you're going to be doing 3 double crochets, a chain of 2, and 3 double crochets. So once you have this corner finished, we are going to chain 1, and we are going to be following exactly the same as we did here on this side. So once you find here the next chain 1 space, right on top of that, we are going to be creating 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. So now chain 1, and then we are going to move on into the next corner, and we are going to be creating corner on top of corner. So once you have finished this corner, chain 1, and now you're going to be repeating the same steps into the rest of the squares. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then I'll meet you right at the end. So when you get here at the end, as you can see, I have followed the same steps here on this side. So when you get here at the end, you want to make sure that you chain 1, and then you're going to be finding the chain 2 here at the beginning. Right on top of that, we are going to be slip stitching the sides together. And now we can fasten off, and then we can choose the next shade. So for row number 4, I'm going to be using this burgundy shade, and then we are going to be starting again here with a slip knot, and then we are going to be attaching into any corner here of the square with a single crochet. We are going to chain 2, and then we are going to be creating the very first corner. So once you have the first corner completed, we are going to chain 1, and then right on top of the chain 1 space, we are going to be doing 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. You're going to chain 1, and then you're going to move on into the next chain 1 space, and then you're going to be creating another shell. So 3 double crochets into the same chain 1 space, as you can see. So every time you see a chain 1 space, you're going to be doing the little 3 double crochets shell. So now to move on into the next corner, you're going to chain 1, find the next corner, and then right on top of this corner, you're going to be doing another corner. So 3 double crochets, a chain of 2, and 3 double crochets. So now once you have finished the second corner, you can now repeat the same here on the other side. And this is basically what you're going to be repeating until you have the sizing of the square you want. You can do as many rows as you want, following these same steps and making sure that you chain 1 in between here the corners so that it increases the sizing of the square. And you can do as many rows you want. You don't have to do 5 as I did. You can do even 30 rows if you want, following the same steps. So now I'm going to be continuing here, following the same steps. Make sure that you chain one when you finish the corner or the little shells here in between the chain one spaces, so that you increase the sizing of the square. So right on top of the chain one, we are doing 3 double crochets, chain one, and then right on top of the next one, 3 double crochets. So I'm just going to be following the same steps here until I get to the end, and then I will be back to show you the next row. So I got here at the end, I followed the same steps all the way around. So now I have to chain one, and then I have to find the chain two right here at the top, and then slip stitch the sides together, chain one, and fasten off. So now we are going to be moving on into the very last row. I chose one color to go into the last rows of all of my granny squares, but you can do colorful if you want. So I'm going to be doing here with the yellow. So first we are going to be doing a slip knot, and we are going to be attaching into any of the corners of our square. I'm going to be doing on this one right here, and then we are going to be attaching with a single crochet, chain two, and create the very first corner. And now we are going to be repeating the same steps as we did previously. So we are going to chain one. When we find a chain one space, we are going to be doing 3 double crochets. Remember that to go into the next one, you have to chain one. So chain one and go into the next chain one space. Right on top of that, you're going to be doing 3 double crochets, chain one, and now we have the last chain one space. And then you're going to be doing the 3 double crochets right on top of that. And then you're going to chain one, and now we got into our next corner. So on top of the corner, we do another corner, just like this. So now you can just follow the same steps all the way around. So chain one and shell here the 3 double crochets on top of the chain one space, and just repeat the same all the way around. So I'm here into my last 3 double crochets. So all I have to do now is to chain one, go right on top of the chain two here at the beginning, and then slip stitch the sides together, chain one, and we can fasten off. So I have my square completed right here. As you can see, it's super easy, right, on how to crochet a granny square. It's the easiest project you ever will do in your life. It's so easy and so quick to make. And also something else that I want to add before I move on into showing you how to fasten off is that you always want to attach the new color on the right side of your square. You don't want to ever turn on the reverse and attach your new color here on the reverse. You always want it to do here on the right side so that the square, it looks pretty, and you always have the reverse here at the back. You will see that the reverse looks like a reverse, and also the yarn will be here at the back as well. So it's super easy to find where the reverse is, because the very first yarn will be here at the back. And you can also see that this one is the right side because the stitches, they look super pretty. So that's how you create and you crochet the colorful granny square. So now I'm going to show you how I weave in these yarns here at the back, and then we are going to be moving on into our one color square. So to weave in, all you have to do is to choose one of the yarns. You're going to get the yarn that it's the same color. Okay, I'm doing here the second row for you. So you're going to be choosing one of them, and you're going to be threading one of them into your tapestry needle. And then all you have to do is to move this yarn through a couple of stitches close to the other yarn. You can see here, it's nice and close to that yarn. And then you're going to be choosing one stitch close to this yarn here that it's on the tapestry needle. And then you're going to go through this stitch twice, like this. And now, with these two yarns, we can make a knot. I usually do a triple knot because that's a little bit more secured, and I think it works the best. Once you have your triple knot, we can now go ahead and we can cut this yarn off right here. So that's how I weave in the back of my colorful squares. You can do any other way that you want, but that's how I do it. And then you can just repeat the same throughout the entire back of the square, weaving in all of the yarns that you have here at the back. So as you can see, I have all of the weave-ins completed. Here we have the reverse of the square, and here we have the right side. So that's how you crochet a colorful granny square. So now I'm going to be showing you how to crochet the other square, which is just using one color throughout the entire square. They are exactly the same. All the rows, it's exactly the same. The only thing that is going to be different is the way that you move to go into the next row. That's what I'm going to be showing you, because the rows, they are exactly the same. They are the same method and the same technique going around. This is a little bit easier so you can see the different rows on how they are. You can see like row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one, it kind of blends everything in, but it's exactly the same. So we have row here 1, 2, and then we start with the 3 double crochets on top of the chain 1. You can see we have 1, 2, and 3 here. 1, 2, and 3 here. So the very first row and the beginning of the one color granny square, it's exactly the same as we did into the colorful one. So you can go ahead and do that. I'm going to be doing my one right here. And then I will be back to show you how to move from row number 1 to row number 2. So here we have the very first one completed. As you can see, it's exactly the same as the other one that I showed you. So now I'm going to show you how to go from row number 1 to row number 2, because that's the only thing that you need to know for you to continue the pattern and then to follow the same as this square here that I showed you. So we are always going to be working on the right side of the square. I'm not twisting it to the reverse or anything like that. So always going towards here, the right side of the square. So going around and around and around, we are not twisting it. Here, if you want to see how I joined, let me show you just how I did this, because maybe that can be useful. So when you have finished the first row, you're gonna go right on top of the chain 3, and then you're going to slip stitch the two sides together, and then from here you're going to be continuing your square and then moving on into the second row. So how do you move from row number 1 to row number 2? All you have to do is to slip stitch until the very first corner you can find. So we have 1, 2, and then 3 slip stitches to do. So you're gonna go right into this one first. So go through this stitch, you're going to pull up a loop, and then you're going to be slip stitching right here. Move on into the next stitch, and then slip stitch. And the last one is going to be right inside the chain 2 space, right on top of the corner basically. And then you're going to slip stitch right into the corner. And then right here, you're going to be starting row number 2. So you're going to be chaining 3. And then here, because it's the corner, we are going to be doing a corner. So 2 double crochets, chain 2, and then 3 double crochets. So now we start the pattern again, and then you're going to chain 1 and then move on into the next corner. So I'm going to be finishing here row number 2, and then I'll meet you right at the end to show you how to move on from row number 2 to row number 3. So when you get at the end of row 2, you're going to be doing exactly the same. So chain 1, find the chain 3 that we've created here at the beginning. You can count 1, 2, right on top here of the chain 3. You're going to be slip stitching the 2 sides together. So now we can slip stitch again until the next corner, and then we can start row number 3. So that's the only thing you have to do to crochet a square using one color only. So now we are going to be moving on into row number 3. So you're going to be chaining 3, and then you're going to be starting row number 3, and then following the same steps as the other square that I showed you. Now moving on into row number 3. So I'm going to be doing this one, and then I'll show you just one more time the end and the beginning, so you can move on from row number 3 to row number 4. So I got here at the end. I'm just going to show you one more time. So first you're going to be slip stitching the 2 sides together, and then we are going to slip stitch until the next corner. So first a slip stitch, second and the last one right on top of the chain 2, so you can start the new corner. So that's all you have to do. I'm going to be leaving this square here a little bit smaller because that was the only thing that I had to show you, and I'm going to be stopping this one right here. So slip stitch. Once you finish your square, you're going to chain 1, you're going to be cutting the yarn, and then you're going to fasten off. So now I'm going to show you how I weave this one here in at the back, because it's a little bit different than the colorful one because we just have 2 yarns here at the back. So first you're going to be threading any of the yarns into your tapestry needle, and then you're just going to be going through a couple of stitches just like this, and then you're going to go back and then you're going to be going through some more stitches. So I usually do like 3 times going back and forth, just so it's nicely and secured in place. And then once you've done that, you can just cut the yarn. There we go. That's how you weave in the back of these ones. So now I'm going to show you how to weave the one here at the top. So first, thread this yarn into your tapestry needle, and then you're gonna go through again a couple of stitches. I like to kind of do right here at the back of the corner because then you have more stitches here. So I move my yarn right here, as you can see, make it nice and tight, and then I go through these stitches here back and forth, just as I did the other one here. I usually skip one little thread, and then I go through some other stitches because that kind of locks the yarn here, and then I do the same here on the other side. I do explain a little bit better into my 101 how to crochet video, so you can check that out if you want. Here I'm kind of just like showing you quickly how to do it. So yeah, that's how you do a granny square using one shade throughout the entire square, and then you're just going to be repeating the same until you have the sizing that you want. This one I did a little bit smaller, so I did 3 rows, and this one I did 5 rows. And that's it, everyone. That's how you crochet a granny square. So as you can see, we have the squares completed, the colorful ones that I showed you at the beginning of the video, and then the one color ones right here on this side. And you saw that it's super easy. If you want to make it one color, you can. You just have to do that little trick with the slip stitches onto the corner, and then you can start the new row following exactly the same way as we did here with the colorful one. But instead of changing the color, you just continue all the way around until you have the sizing that you want. Super easy to crochet a granny square. right? What did you think about today's video? It was super quick. Like, if you know the basics of how to crochet, this is super easy. And that's why I told you, if you want to learn how to crochet this granny square, for you to first watch my one-on-one how to crochet for beginners video that I already have on my channel. I'll link that in the description below if you want to check it out, because that's going to be way easier if you know the basics first, for you to move on into a granny square, because then you will understand a little bit more what a chain is, what a single crochet is, what a double crochet is, and then you will at least understand what I'm talking about before you move on into crocheting something that it's already solid, like a granny square. Okay, it's much easier if you know a little bit than going straight into a tutorial, because I'm going to be moving around and it's a little bit difficult. And in that video I explain all the stitches super detailed, so it will be easier for you to watch the video first and then moving on into this tutorial, which is basically a granny square. And do practice, so next week we can crochet something together. It's going to be super fun. It's going to be my very first time doing what I'm going to be doing with these particular squares here, that it's a little bit simpler. I do have what I'm going to be doing next week already on my channel, using another square, so that's a little hint of what is coming. So do practice this week, so next week you will be a pro on how to crochet a granny square, and then we can crochet something super fun together using these little grannies. So thank you everyone for watching. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. It was super fun. I love crocheting granny squares. I think this is my favorite thing to crochet. I love it so much. Let me know what colors you're going to be using, the sizing that you're going to be doing, if you are planning on doing any project using these granny squares, and also if you end up doing them following my tutorial, don't forget to tag me on Instagram if you post any pictures. I love seeing all the creations you guys do following my tutorials. I always love to see the colors you use and the little kind of modifications that you guys do on the project as well, because I think that that's really nice, because then you just put a little touch of your own kind of taste to the project. So yeah, thank you so much for watching today's video. I cannot wait to share with you what is coming next week, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, thank you so much everyone. If you enjoyed today's video, leave your massive thumbs up as you always do. Also don't forget to subscribe so you can watch more videos like this one. So thank you everyone, and I'll see you next week. Bye!
Remember, don't hesitate to call on me for anything.